The Great Cupcake Caper, a tasty mystery in the lively town of Sugarville, where the streets were lined with candy cane lampposts and chocolate fountains bubbled in every square. There was a famous bakery called the Sweet Spot. Everyone in town loved it, especially for its legendary cupcakes. They came in every flavor imaginable: vanilla, chocolate, strawberry swirl, caramel delight, and even a mysterious flavor called moonbeam sparkle. The Sweet Spot was run by an elderly woman named Mrs. Crumble, who was as sweet as the treats she baked. But the real stars of the bakery were her two young apprentices, Zoe and Max. Zoe had curly red hair and a big laugh, and she was a master at mixing the perfect batter. Max, with his glasses and quiet smile, was known for his knack at decorating each cupcake with creative designs. One sunny morning, as Zoe and Max prepared to open the bakery, they noticed something strange. The display case that should have been filled with fresh cupcakes was completely empty. Not a single cupcake in sight. The trays had been cleaned and polished, but the cupcakes, dozens of them, were gone. Zoe gasped. "Max, where are the cupcakes? We baked them last night, and now they vanished." Max scratched his head, confused. They couldn't have just disappeared, could they? Mrs. Crumble came out from the back kitchen, her apron dusted with flour. "What's all the fuss about, my dears?" "The cupcakes are gone," Zoe said, her voice rising with concern. "We baked a whole batch last night, but this morning, the case is empty." Mrs. Crumble's eyes twinkled with amusement. "Well, it looks like we have ourselves a mystery. And mysteries, my dears, are best solved with clever thinking and a dash of curiosity." Max nodded. "We'll get to the bottom of this. Zoe, let's investigate." The two apprentices grabbed their aprons, ready for their new role as detectives in what they now called the Great Cupcake Caper. Clue 1. The Crumbs. Their first stop was the bakery counter, where they carefully examined the display case. Zoe crouched down and pointed to something small and crumbly on the floor. "Look, Max. Crumbs. Someone must have dropped these while taking the cupcakes." Max adjusted his glasses, inspecting the trail of crumbs. "Good catch, Zoe. Let's follow them." The crumb trail led them out of the bakery and down the candy-coated streets of Sugarville. Along the way, they asked a few locals if they had seen anything suspicious. Mr. Jellybean, who owned the candy shop next door, shook his head. "I haven't seen anything strange," he said. "But I did hear some odd sounds coming from the bakery last night, almost like munching." Zoe raised an eyebrow. "Munching? Sounds like we might have a clue." Clue 2. The paw prints. The trail of crumbs led them to the park, where children were playing near a fountain of fizzy lemonade. But there was something else on the ground, tiny paw prints, leading straight into the bushes. "Paw prints?" Max asked, scratching his head. "I didn't think animals were allowed in the bakery." Zoe grinned. "Looks like someone furry was hungry for cupcakes." They followed the paw prints through the park until they reached a little hole under a tree. Inside, they could see flashes of bright color, something that looked like frosting. Zoe leaned closer. "Max, look inside. There's a pile of cupcake wrappers and—" "Is that a cherry?" Max peered into the hole. "I think we've found where the cupcakes went, but who or what took them?" Clue 3. The squirrel bandits. Just then, they heard a rustling in the tree above them. When they looked up, they saw them, 3 mischievous squirrels with frosting-covered whiskers and crumbs in their paws. One squirrel was holding a half-eaten cupcake, while another had an entire tray balanced between its tiny paws. "Squirrels!" Zoe exclaimed. "They're the cupcake thieves." The squirrels squeaked in surprise and quickly darted up the tree, trying to hide their loot. Max laughed. "I guess they couldn't resist Mrs. Crumble's cupcakes." Zoe crossed her arms, smiling. "They're sneaky little bandits. But we'll have to figure out a way to get those cupcakes back before the bakery opens." A sweet solution. The squirrels seemed nervous, hiding in the branches and clutching their cupcakes. Zoe, thinking quickly, pulled a shiny apple from her apron pocket. "I bet they'll trade cupcakes for apples," she whispered to Max. "Let's see if they'll take the bait." Zoe held up the apple, waving it gently. "Here, little squirrels. How about a trade?" The squirrels' noses twitched at the sight of the apple. Slowly, one by one, They climbed down the tree and dropped the stolen cupcakes at Zoe's feet in exchange for the apple. The plan worked. With the cupcakes returned, Zoe and Max hurried back to the bakery, placing the rescued treats into the display case, just in time for the morning rush. Mrs. Crumble was waiting with a smile. "Did you solve the mystery?" "We sure did," Max said proudly. Turns out, a group of hungry squirrels had a late-night cupcake feast. Mrs. Crumble chuckled. "Well, that's Sugarville for you. Even the animals have a sweet tooth." The special delivery, just when they thought the excitement was over, Mrs. Crumble surprised them by placing 2 extra special cupcakes in their hands, one for Zoe and one for Max. "These are for you, my clever detectives," she said with a wink. To celebrate the Great Cupcake Caper, Zoe and Max grinned as they took a bite of their cupcakes, savoring the sweet victory of a mystery well solved. As the day went on and the bakery bustled with happy customers, the 2 young detectives knew that the next time something strange happened in Sugarville, they'd be ready to solve it. And so, the Great Cupcake Caper ended, but Zoe and Max's adventures were just beginning.